Guys, what's going on? To Spot the Aussie here for round number 10. It is absolutely blistering out here at the Spa-Francorchamps track, and as you can see, it's a very odd qualifying session because look at the order: Alonso, Rosberg, Raikkonen, Sainz, Button in 5th position. And this is all because we've had some dampness on the track to begin with. We went on intermediate tyres and we were able to get out there while it was just a little bit damp, and as you can see, it's starting to clear up, which means everyone else is now going to be able to post a time on soft tyres, which is not good for us because we wanted to kind of hold our position on pole. This would have been our first pole position. So now it's all about just waiting and waiting and waiting till we get that time right. And please give this video a thumbs up for being on pole thus far. Even though it's one half already past the session, we're probably going to get beaten here just at the end. It's been a good session thus far. I can actually say that I've held pole for once. So, it's just the waiting game. We're going to wait till about 3 minutes and then send them out, because look at that. It takes 2 minutes to do a lap around here. With that crazy weather that happened, a lot of people were caught out in the drastic downpour. We've been able to secure a much faster time, and Perez has just gone fast on the intermediate tyres on a much drier track, and that's what I expect to happen. So, we are going to time this to go out at the perfect time, which is just going to be very shortly. At the Spa track, it is a much longer pit, so it takes a lot longer to get them up to speed. So we're going to send them out going full bolt to begin with. We're not going to worry about getting them in the right tyre temp, because it is just about getting around enough, or getting around fast enough in order to start their fast lap, which is just going to be when the track is completely clear. I've waited as long as I possibly can to send out Fernando, and we've sent him out just at the right time. If I slow him up, however, if I slow him up to try and get the brake temp and tyre temp down, he's not going to meet the line in order to start his most fastest time. So this is the way it's going to operate. We're going to send them out as it is. He's going to start his lap, or does he have enough time to get around? It is a much longer track than you think once you're out there, so we might just start to get him to slow down to see if we can actually do it, at least for Alonso. We're not going to be able to do it for Button. Button's just going to start his time with no one in front of him. That's a great way for us to start our lap. And who's that in front of us? We want to try and get beyond that car, at least give him a bit more of a gap. And we're lighting up the tyres now. Tyre temp is perfect. Brake temp is good. He's going to get up to full speed but by the time he gets up to the start line. And this is going to be an absolute screaming lap for both of our drivers right now. Double thumbs up, guys. It's all beginning right now. Can Button improve on his time? I think he'll definitely improve, but he might drop down in the order when other people start to record their lap. Button is now the fastest car on the circuit. He's posted the fastest first sector. Vettel's now taken that off him, and someone else has taken that off Vettel, Ricciardo. So Ricciardo is actually the fastest car on the circuit right now. Where is Alonso? Alonso's just behind him. He's improved his time. He's gotten around the outside of the other Red Bull car. It looks like that would have been Verstappen. And we are now crunching down some very fast times here in order to jump up the grid and to try and get that first position. A lot of the other cars are now, everyone's out doing a lap right now, so everyone was able to get around in time in order to start a fast lap. So it's not going to be an easy grid. We're currently 9th. We're definitely going to improve on that time. We're up on the leader by about 1.4 seconds, but that's going to change as soon as that goes up. Button goes up to 2nd. Vettel goes up to pole. Ricciardo takes pole off him. Are we going to take off pole off Ricciardo? I don't think so. We go 3rd fastest. That's a much bigger improvement. And Button, currently in 6th position. Very handy spot to be in. Everyone else is now just updating their times. Rosberg's in 18th, and so is Hamilton. So they're going to drastically improve their times. In fact, they're going to do a 1-2. They've waited till right at the last point that they could get it in, and they've been able to improve. But at the moment, we're 7th and 11th. A very, very common place at 7th. We seem to be there every single race. Spa race starting. 3 red lights, 4 red lights, 5 red lights, 0 red lights, and we are starting off at Spa in the Belgium Grand Prix. There's a bit of a shuffle there with the 2 cars. Looks like Rosberg immediately drops back into 3rd position, so that's a poor start from Rosberg. How have we fared? We're in 7th and 11th. That's exactly where we started. In fact, we're now on the grind. We're going to go past Vettel. We make it look easy. We made it look like he was standing still, and now we're all over the rear of Kimi Raikkonen, who's having to stop drastically for that first bit of the race. And we're going to have to keep a keen eye out in this weather, because anything can happen. I'm a bit worried that it might start to rain at any second, and right now we're threatening Raikkonen. We're going around the inside. We're going to set ourselves up for the next corner, and then we close the door on him, and he's going to get shuffled back by Bottas. So that's a really good start by Bottas. And in fact, Button not having the best of starts at the moment either, but we're going to put them both into complete attack mode to get their tyre temperatures up. They're currently about midway. As soon as they get beyond that midway, we might just bring them down a little bit, try and get a bit more long life out of these tyres. Remember, it's a 27 lap race, and it's about a 1 minute 50 around this track, I believe, and 1 minute 40 to do a fast lap. So it's going to be a very long distance race. Raikkonen doing the job for us thus far. Let's put him into overtake mode. Let's push away a little bit from Raikkonen, leave him in the dust. We don't want to get all the way over the back of Ricciardo and make a bit of a mess of it. We'd rather push while we've got a little bit of open air. That way Raikkonen can't come underneath us. He's in the conserve mode for his attacking style, but overtake mode for his engine. Jenson Button's now back up into 11th position. He's locked up just there, so that's going to be... He's going to lose a bit of tyre degradation, about 5% since the new patch. I don't like that factor. Before the patch, it used to be 20%, and then we had a lot of people complaining on the Steam forums that they need to reduce it because every time it would stuff up their pit stops. But the reality is the artificial intelligence, the computer, the drivers can also lock up, so that would adjust the way they have to pit as well. I think it'd be much better. You'd have to adapt to what was happening around you, but that's not going to be the case anymore because they've patched it to about 4% every lockup. I've locked up my brakes before on a go-kart on the rears, and it feels like a 50-cent piece once you've locked up, so I think it's better to keep that realism in there and make it so that once they've locked up, it drastically drops the performance by dropping that 20% of endurance. That's my 2 cents, I guess, or my 50 cent. I don't know if you guys know what a 50-cent piece looks like. In Australia, it's, do we have one? It's like that. It's like a hexagon. It's like the pentagon. It's like multiple sides. 8 sides, I believe. I don't actually know. Can we get a photo of that up on the screen for a little bit? And what I mean by that is once you brake, it smooths off the side that when it rolls, it goes. But Alonso drastically doing a good job for us. Drastically. By drastic meaning, I mean he's doing a great job for us. He's down to 73% of tyre tread already. Doesn't look like it's going to rain anytime soon. We're starting to pull back, pushing. But who's all over us at the moment? Is anyone all over us? We're actually catching Ricciardo, not Verstappen. It looks like Raikkonen is continually pushing as well. We just want to burn a little bit fuel now while we can and worry about it at the end of the race by bringing it back down after we've pitted for our pit stops. Fifth position would be absolutely amazing at this track. I don't know if it's possible, but the fact that we're in front of Raikkonen and Vettel now, who I imagine will have team orders to allow Vettel by Raikkonen, I can only assume. Yeah, that would happen, that we're going to be under threat from Vettel very shortly, given the fact that we've pushed more than any other team on these tyres. We might just go back to medium engine mode, let it sing a little bit. Not the same for Button, because Button's probably going to get lapped. He always seems to get lapped. Everyone from about 8th backwards usually gets lapped, especially in these longer distance races. It's more likely, despite the fact that it's 2-minute lap track, or rounded off to 2 minutes. See, we're doing 150s. So Magnussen is locked up. He's not a threat to us. He's all the way back in 20th position. How did he get back in 20th? That is a sloppy result for the Renault team. But the guys ahead of us are battling, Verstappen and Ricciardo, which is good noise or news for us because it's going to drag their times a little bit. And let's have a look at the fastest times in that last lap. So it was a 155 for us, 156 for Verstappen, 154 for Raikkonen. Raikkonen is catching us. We can't really respond by pushing the car anymore. We really need to push for a bit more life out of it. Jenson Button is now trying to overtake. He actually makes it happen. He overtakes Hulkenberg, makes it happen. Does a really good job there. Any weather conditions? Yes, there are. There's going to be a lot of weather conditions, so we can start to push those tyres because we're going to throw them out. They're going to be complete garbage to us. Let's slow it down a little bit. So in about 2 laps time, which is enough for us to keep pushing on our current tyres down to 25%, remember, it's going to start to rain. So we can use up these tyres as much as we want. We also want to push while it's drier. We'd want to push now rather than later, because if we push when it's wetter, that's when you're more likely to crash. So if we push off now, burn up a bit of fuel as much as we possibly can, that's going to do us wonders later on in the race. But we don't want to get behind Verstappen. If we get behind or close enough behind Verstappen, we will pull it back a little bit, depending upon the gap. We are closing on him, actually. Look at that last lap time, a 154 versus his 155. And Ferrari have used Team Vettel's to allow Sebastian Vettel through Kimi Raikkonen. How did I know that? How did I guess? I rubbed it, I saw it in the future, and it happened. Let's go back to push mode. I don't want to get all the way over the back of Verstappen. I'm happy to follow very closely, but I don't want to make a mess of it by tripping over him. Remember, all these other cars ahead of us have to double stack when they pit. And that's because you can only... Well, double stacking, that's because all the lead teams, drivers at the front, whereas Button is much further behind. He's all the way back in 10th position. There's a big gap between Alonso and Button, so by the time we go in and out, he won't have any dramas. Everyone else will have to double stack. It is a long pit stop here as well as at Spa. It goes all the way around. It starts there, goes all the way around. You have to do the limit of about 100 kilometers, so it's going to be quite drastic for those guys. And at lap 8, it's going to start to drizzle. So we want to go more into attack mode more than ever because we still have excess tyre tread, which is very unusual for us. Button does a 154, which is nearly as fast as Alonso. Alonso is still lapping faster than Verstappen, and also doing a much better job. Well, no, actually, I was correction. Vettel is doing 153 flat. The guys in the top 3 are doing 152. And are they going to pit this lap? It'll be the lap after that they pit, I imagine. And we're getting all over the back of Verstappen. Not what we wanted to do, but... Go back into neutral mode a little bit, get that tyre degradation down. There's no need to push it. We will be pitting the following lap. As for Button, same as Fume. Marcus Ericsson is locked up as well. Another non-threat for us. And remember, Button locking up before isn't going to be penalised because we're going to have to pit anyway. So here we go. Here comes the last lap before we have to go into the pits. We're going to have to pit the next lap. So the way it works is it follows the lead car. Wherever he is at the moment, see that he's around at the halfway point? It's halfway into that lap. So if he pits now, it won't start raining until the leader passes him. So by the time we start our lap, we'll have to be on intermediates anyway. But look at that, Sebastian Vettel goes through. He does a huge dive bomb now. I'm a little bit surprised by how much he was willing to dive on this. He is into overtake mode. That's fine. Let him do what he wants to do there. That's okay by us. We might get Button to keep pushing. He's at 33%. He has much more tyre tread than Alonso, and it's going to start pissing down as soon as Lewis Hamilton passes the line. So let's get it to speed up a little bit faster, and it's enough for us to come in. Are these guys going to come in? No, they're not going to come in just yet. So we will come in now. We'll pit now for intermediate tyres. Strategy, balance, parts, nothing to fix. In the pits he goes. He's in 6th position when pitting. How's everyone else going to go? It should start drizzling, and by the time we jump out, it should really start to bucket down. Ooh, do we have enough time for Button? No, I don't believe we have enough time for Button. Park condition, everything's fine. Balance, stop. He's going to be beyond the pit stop, isn't he? Yeah, he is. That's okay. Button's going to have to do one more lap on those tyres. He's through to 8th position anyway. And hopefully he doesn't go beyond Alonso. He does, but that's okay. It's a good stop for Alonso. He gets out. He drops into 10th position. He's going to be fighting these other cars, which I imagine might be a little bit faster to begin with, but should come straight back to him once he starts to push a little bit more. The fact that the track is getting much damper as we speak. There we go, everyone's light goes on, so he's going into the pits, Button's going into the pits. Let's signal, let's give a signal to allow our teammate through for Button once Alonso catches him. Doesn't look like he's catching him, is he? In fact, that gap is ever so increasing while it's not wet enough just yet. Everyone else should start to come in just about now, I'd imagine. I hope this stop doesn't cost us that much time. I'm not even looking at the right car, I'm looking at Button's car. Whoops, the gap from Alonso's down to 2.6. So it seems to be favouring the fact that we stop now, which I'm happy about. Those tyres will not get to the end of the race, so I'm happy to start pushing them now anyway and use up a bit more tyre degradation in doing so. So Button's going to come in the pits on his 22% tyres in 8th position. A very clear 8th position. The other cars ahead of us, oh, it looks like they just jumped out ahead. So staying out that one lap has worked out for these other guys. They were able to squeeze a little bit more out of it, which is unfortunate for us. We're in 6th position, so we're chasing Raikkonen. Actually, no, correction. We were already down into 6th position when we pitted, weren't we? Correct. Because Verstappen was ahead of us, so was Vettel. And, yeah, so that's fine. So we haven't lost anything by doing that. Good stop for us to begin with. Go into push mode for Button. He can just go back into medium mode. We don't want to push this yet. We've got to just monitor how this track's going to go. So by pushing now, we should be able to get about, I imagine, 13 laps. then pit, well, I mean probably another 8 laps, and then pit for the last stint of the race. So it's worked out pretty well for us thus far, and we just got to keep a close eye on that weather in case it starts to dry out very fast, very hastily. But yeah, as for the times, we are catching up. We're keeping about the same distance. It's at 3.8 seconds. Let's just monitor that gap. And Button into the top 10. Big shock and horror right there for him. So we could have possibly waited one more lap and not pushed as much, but I'm happy with the way that it's kind of worked out anyway. Just to keep that in note next time that if we do come in. But yeah, let's just monitor this. It's just going to be a case of just drizzling around. Gap is now 4.4 seconds. Raikkonen, it's 2.5. So the trick here is the cars ahead of us, the 5 cars ahead of us, are faster than us anyway. The other thing is Raikkonen. Raikkonen is doing 2 seconds faster, but he's pushing the car. He's in high mode, which means he's more at a risk of crashing that car. We might just go into high mode because we don't want to get caught by him. We don't want to push too much either. We might just have to get a push mode because the tyre temperatures are dropping a little bit more than what I would have liked them to have. We'll go back to neutral for Button. And it might start to get dry around that lap 18 mark as well. So, keep watching this space. What is Raikkonen doing? He's going into complete overtake mode. We might do the same. We might just push on a little bit here. We don't want to decrease that gap. We don't want to fight with him. We'd rather just keep a healthy gap and then make up that conservative fuel later on in the race. I might just put him into overtake mode for the straight and only the straight, and then go back down to high mode, use up a bit more fuel than we need. Who's that lap car? That's a lap car of Nasser, I believe. Yeah, it is. Here comes the lap cars. As for Button, he'll have to probably pull that one less lap of fuel in because it doesn't look like they're going to get lapped at this rate. It's definitely going to get drier as well. But 50% we want to be safe. Get there and then push at the end. Ooh, he's all over the back. Who's that now? He's all over the back of Verstappen, whose last time was a 158 versus our 157. So we're much faster than Verstappen, who's now starting to get the idea and push a little bit harder as well. But the fact that this track might get dry by lap 20 is possibly going to save us a little bit here, without being caught out with having to change our tyres again. And being able to make that lap 21. Lap 21 to be precise. We want to get all the way to lap 21 in order to pit. And at the moment, 50%. So we've used 50% almost. And how many laps? 6 laps. Ooh, that's not probably going to be enough. But we're not pushing as much. We're not in a high mode. Now, this is just a case, a bit of a war of attrition at the moment, isn't it? To see whose tyres will let out first. We're at 40% now. We're using about 6 to 7% every lap on the mode that we're on. I don't want to push any more than we're currently on. I think we've already forfeited 4th position, but we might be able to get 5th. And I'm hoping that Verstappen's gap to Ricciardo doesn't mean they're going to double stack unless one of them has a bit of a pit mistake and pushes them both back. But 38% tyre tread, if we push now anymore and pull up the temperature, it's going to absolutely rip those tyres to shreds, so we have to safely get around on this 39%. We've let Raikkonen through now, I'm happy to do it, we'll make up for it later. Let's just watch this space and just keep going around and try and fight for that spot. We might have to pit in about 1 to 2 more laps. Last lap and a bit of a damp track, so we're going to push. We're at 25%. We're going to have to push those tyres to bring up the tyre temperature, the degrees wise, otherwise they're going to be used just as fast anyway. They're probably going to get her all the way around to about 15%, and then we're going to have to pit, but the gap to Raikkonen isn't losing out too much. So the idea here is to try and stay in touch with Raikkonen and then pit. It is a very long lap around here. It's still doing about 1 minute 50 in order to do a full race lap. But let's just try and psych this out a little bit. The gap to Raikkonen is now 2.9 seconds, 3 seconds. The idea here is to start to pit. Look to pit now and come out on soft tyres, which are going to last the rest of the race. We're going to do a fast stop. In he goes. Same with this man here. Let's go to attack mode for this last bit of the race. And by the time we come out, it should really start to dry up, so I'm not too worried. It's a good stop, 5.4 seconds. It is a long pit stop there, remember that though. And it looks like Button's gap is good enough to come in. So's a couple of the other cars. Who else is pitting? Bottas. We want to make sure that we get Button in now. That way he's not going to be out on a really dry track with intermediate tyres that are already ripped through. So he's going to come in, do his stop as planned. Out goes Alonso. He should be able to push. Given that we've got tyre tread for 12 laps, we should be able to push straight out the window, get them heated, and hopefully we're catching a little bit here on the guys ahead of us. Hopefully we're able to leapfrog Raikkonen. It won't be because of his tyre degradations down. It's only at 30%. But the fact that the track is starting to dry much faster than what these guys were pushing at might mean that we can leapfrog them. Let's see what happens here. Are we catching them enough? What is the gap? It is 24 seconds, 23 seconds. And the gap is constantly draining. The gap should now really start to pull in because we are coming into the pits. Let's just wait and see. There he is. He's coming out of the pit lane just now. He's just going to beat us out, but are we going to be able to overtake straight on the straight? Let's go to super overtake mode for a little bit here. Try and get him revved up enough in order to get on the tail and go back to medium mode while we push behind Raikkonen to get that spot back, who's currently in the conserve mode. So who have we leapfrogged? We've leapfrogged Verstappen, who it looks like he must have had a really bad stop because he's actually dropped back enough in order for Raikkonen and also us to get by him. So we must have had a mistake in pit lane. That's great news for us. We're going to have to go into... We're not going to have to go into neutral mode, that's for sure, because we are in the right area, or the right amount of laps left. It's going to be 5 laps. So that's a very fast 5 laps. So let's go into a complete attack mode, which means he's going to be on the full assault to get Raikkonen's position. Raikkonen will push here, but we just want to wait until the last bit of the race and try and grab that spot back. Everything that we've worked for here seems to be paying off. How is Button? So Button's definitely going to get overtaken by Hamilton at this last bit of the race. He's lapping at about 153 while Button's doing 155s. Yes, and the gap back to him is only just up the road. So we might just wait. We might just let him conserve fuel as much as he can. Alonso's really starting to push. Let's get him back into neutral mode to bring down the tyre temps. We are being gained upon by Verstappen, who's also pushing. But this is our big shot in the sun to make something of it, to try and get that 5th place and make a bit of a statement. In the confusion of things, Vettel's gone to medium tyres. I don't know why he would have done that. That's like excess tyres for him to push. Alonso's done his fastest second sector of that last lap, but it wasn't his fastest last sector, while Raikkonen just did his fastest lap, which is 2.4 seconds faster. How did Verstappen go? Verstappen is 1.6 seconds faster, and that gap is going to be decreasing ever so more every single lap that we do, and it is now 3 laps to go with 66%, so we're just going to push all the way to the line, and for Button as well, because I don't think there's any threats from Massa. Nope, he's too far behind, but where's 8th? Bottas. He's a little bit ahead of him. 17 seconds. He's in a safe area in order to push. Main thing is, he might not get lapped, so we don't want to push too much. But if Massa gets lapped, that means he won't have another chance to overtake him. So it's okay that we start to push now. And Alonso now going to be under attack from Verstappen. Verstappen, the wonder kid, the young kid, the 18-year-old I think he is now. He's a young fella, did an absolute amazing race at Brazil this season. And we're still at 50% with 2 laps to go once we cross the line. And now we can start to push a little bit. We can put it into high mode. We've got enough fuel to get around exactly on the fuel that we're on. But I don't feel like we'll have enough. Or once we get to about 0.1 is when we're going to have to back off. We might just do the same for Button. I'm just going to have to closely monitor these 2 drivers. It looks like Alonso was responding with his fastest lap, which wasn't much faster than Raikkonen, but we are gaining on him. You can see the gap visually closing. It's 4.5 seconds. 6th position might be safe for us. I don't think we're going to be able to get a 5th result from this. Jenson Button just posted his fastest lap of the race. It's not going to be enough to get to... It's not going to be enough to get to 8th position, I believe. Let's have a look at the 22 seconds. So let's just be safe with him. Let's just push. Go back to mini mode for engine. No need to wear it out. We might also do the same for Alonso. Alonso posting the fastest 2nd sector that he's done thus far. And because the gap is now 4.3 seconds, we're not going to be able to pull that in. Let's just go to medium mode. Let's just finish this race. We've done an amazing job getting into 6th. We fought against the odds again. We're faster than one of the Red Bulls. Unfortunately, not faster than one of the Ferraris. But that's the way the cookie crumbles at times. The gap seems to be closing down a little bit here while he goes into conserve mode. He's fluctuating from overtake to conserve mode. And Button just posted a 1:51. That's his fastest lap of the race. Bottas just did a faster time as well. So it's good to see these guys coming into their own at the right time of the race. And let's just cheer over Alonso while he gets to the line. Go into low mode. I just want him to finish a 6th position result. Both cars amazingly both into the top into the top 10. That is great for us. It's one of those longer races here at Spa, isn't it? It's a 2-minute lap around here, which really pushes the cars to their limits. I'm hoping for more street circuits to end with, because that really, you know, assists our car and able to drive past these other guys in the championship the way our car is being built. But how is that for a result? Let's have a look at the fastest timings. See, we're doing 149, so we're still off the fastest guys out there. A 146 from Hamilton, a 147 from Verstappen, and just a 151 from Button. So Button's like 5.6 seconds off the fastest time. But you know what? He didn't get lapped for a change, which was great to see. But yeah, that must have been of a blunder of a pit mistake from Verstappen's crew in order to drop him. It's a bit funny like that. You don't think how much of a mistake, you know, 2 to 3 seconds can do, but once you're behind a driver, it's hard to get ahead, because they'll respond to however you're responding. If you're going faster, they'll go faster. So that pit strategy, you know, putting it into balance mode pays off when we don't make any mistakes. Going into fast mode is way too risky, losing about 9 seconds, which would have put us back definitely in to 7th position. So let's have a look. Does anyone get caught cheating? No. What's the results? Is our chairman going to be happy? We're not hitting our target of 3rd or above. I'd be very surprised if he was. That might get me done. He's down to 26%. What's the percentage? Look at that. Fernando just keeps increasing everywhere. I think he had one trait drop recently, and he's down to 4.5 stars, where he was up to about 4 and a bit before. So Vandoorne actually has more potential than both Alonso and Button. That actually surprises me a little bit to a degree. They're ultimately saying Vandoorne's the better driver when he pushes himself. But the chairman happiness is going to go down by 10%. That's going to be really risky for us. However, Jenson Button's morale goes up, and we're going to score some more points. Much needed points. I think it's getting to that point of the race when we need to start looking at other sponsors as well, and they will start to offer once we start to roll forward. So thanks again for tuning in, guys. It's been a Spot the Aussie production. McLaren Mod Challenge. We're starting to get a bit more grip there. It's going to take us the off season, improve the car, and then come back next season in order to start winning races, I believe. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to like, hit the subscribe button. Let me know what you think below. I think Button may have saved himself. I think we're going to kick him out of the team for the next race for Vandoorne, but I think Button's just saved himself for that result. Let me know what you guys think down below. Cheers, guys, and I'll talk to you shortly.